Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last day of our gouache marathon. Welcome to Art Prof. We are a global art party. Today, I am going to be painting some carrots. Let's get right into it. I am going to be using hot press watercolor paper. So far, what I've done in the gouache marathon, day one, was a peacock on a primed wood panel. Day two was my little fairy landscape, and this was done on cold press watercolor. Let's see how the hot press goes. Tell me in the comments, what do you think I should work on today? Because the peacock was a challenge. There's just so many little things. The next one was super atmospheric. And I believe today I'm going to indulge myself and I'm going to do a teal background. So I'm going to start with the permanent green deep, and I'll add, oh, I may not have to add anything. Let's just see. Oh, that's a little muddy. I don't think I cleaned my brush. Okay, that was kind of dumb. Give me 1 second. I need to reposition my webcam. You guys can think about enrolling in one of our March and April workshops. The registration is due this Friday, and it's important to register now to make sure that the workshops are able to run. We do certainly keep registration open. However, we can only do that if enough people register to begin with. Let's try to get a more saturated teal, and I believe I should also add a little bit of blue. I didn't think I was going to need it, but this is a turquoise blue, and let's see if it gets me closer to that teal that I'm looking for. No, I don't like that at all. Maybe I should just stick with the regular green. It's sort of like Viridian, but it's not as dark for sure. And I don't want to make this too thick because it is supposed to just be the beginning. And the reasoning behind why I'm using this color is because there is a lot of orange because of the carrots. And one part that I'm very excited to paint, it's not just the carrots. Does everybody see on the right-hand side of the reference? And if you don't see the reference, the link is in the video description below. It's a picture of carrots that I shot at the Kauai Community Market in Kauai, Hawaii. I've never seen that many shades of carrots in my life. And that was such a treat because going to farmers markets, one of my favorite things to do in general, but also especially when I'm in a foreign country. I just really like learning about that. Who's painting along with me or making stuff with me? You don't have to paint carrots. You can certainly work on any project you've got going. And I hope, as many of you have been doing, that you will post what you make in the Art Alongs channel in our Discord. Just trying to get this a little more even. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I felt like value-wise, it was a bit unbalanced to begin with. By the way, everybody, I'd like you to all know I'm having a serious love affair with teal. Do you have a color that you got a thing for it right now? Maybe it makes things easier. I talked to Andrew Raftery, my former professor at RISD, and we were talking about what colors we always find ourselves needing to replenish for watercolor. And he said, mine is raw sienna. And it's very funny because I've never used raw sienna as a regular part of my palette. And so in my head, I can't really understand why somebody would ever need to use that much raw sienna. I mean, granted, he's a very, very different artist than I am, but I just found that fascinating that he could have so much use for a color that I find not that exciting. I don't know, it's like raw sienna to me, it's like you might as well just be yellow ochre. I mean, I know it's different, but it's so similar to yellow ochre that for me, it's very difficult to justify making that happen. Okay, let's take a look at what people are saying in the comments and give me another second. This stupid webcam, the connection is not very good. And it's giving me a lot of annoying trouble. Just trying to get it to be a little bit less tilted. I have it taped to the top of my screen. Normally, I'm pretty good at making things not look super crappy, but not today, apparently. I'm glad you're all willing to put up with all my tech stuff because it just never goes away if you're going to do stuff online. Lisa is asking, what is your initial feeling with the hot press? I confess, it's sort of boring. There isn't anything that exciting about it because it doesn't have that awesome roughness and creates inherent texture the way the cold press had, but it's definitely not refined the way that the wood panel is. And so I guess compared to the other two surfaces, it just feels boring. I know that's mean. Sorry, hot press. Thank you so much for the super chat, Taraboo. We so much appreciate any support any of you can give us. Because, wow, we need a lot of equipment. And the thing about equipment, I always get equipment and I think, oh, I'm all set. And then I find out some other thing that's going to make the quality better that I need to get. And I'm not saying that I just buy stuff here and there, but when you start realizing, oh, I haven't bought a webcam in 10 years, you start to realize maybe I should level up. Shamar says lemon yellow or whatever my blue on the palette is. I do really like lemon yellow. Lemon yellow, I think about it as a cool yellow. It has a little bit of a not quite neon punch, just the smallest bit. Now, I do like cadmium yellow light. That is a fine color, but there's something about that lemon. It's got a little kick that is not present in the other yellows. All right, Lisa goes through the blue. Alexander says indigo. You know, you have got my brain working, Alexander, because you mentioned indigo yesterday. Now, when I think about how much I really like deep, dark colors like dioxazine purple, I'm thinking I might need to give that a try. Angela's making Valentine postcards for my grandkids. Okay, grandparents, raise your hand. I would love to know, is having grandkids as awesome as it sounds? I would really like to know because Don't get me wrong, I love my kids, but the concept that I could spoil some kids and not have to get punished for that later on is extremely enticing. That and not waking up in the middle of the night, which I still do. I think to myself, "Oh, my kids are young. Now my kids are older. Now I don't have to worry about that anymore." And now they're, like, asking to be picked up at sleepovers at 1 AM. I mean, I'm glad that they call me because if they wanna leave, they wanna leave, but yeah, that it just never ends, you guys. Alexander says, "You should see black carrots. My fave are the black ones. They have a very earthy color." I have not looked that carefully, but I certainly will because the beets are so rich. Earthy is a great word to describe that. Cookie Monster says, "Starving artists, no painting sold for a year." I've dipped into selling my art here and there, but it's so different now because the time when I really was selling regularly, and I'm not talking big money, I'm talking about just a little nice extra cash. I think it was in the 2000s when I was selling just regularly on Etsy and I wasn't having to do any promotion. I think Etsy is very different now. I think they've shifted something about the way it works because at a certain point that stopped. And I have not had the time to be thinking about that. Oh, wait, is it the Super Bowl tonight? Oh, I do not pay attention to any of those things. Okay, so tonight, all of you had to choose between Super Bowl and Gouache Marathon. Let's see where your dedication lies. Although George says it's in the background, which says to me that I'm a little higher up on that food chain. Great. Welcome to Teodora, Rachel, CL Jeans. Butter has a jar of pickles. Who here likes pickles? I hate pickles. My spouse and kids, they all love pickles, but not me. Lori says, "A whole new world. They are so much fun." Oh, I don't know. What have I got? My kids are like teens now. Could be sooner than I think. Tara says, "I hate sports, but even if I like them, I would choose you." Well, that is high praise. I don't really watch sports. I guess if it's like the Olympics, I'll watch gymnastics. I mean, everybody watches gymnastics, but I do really enjoy watching volleyball indoor. I mean, beach volleyball is fine, but my favorite is definitely indoor because that's what I spent a lot of high school doing. All right, gotta zoom out. Okay, we're gonna get started really taking a close look because this image is pretty crowded and I'm trying to figure out what do I leave out because there's certain things here that I do think would be better if I left them out. Okay, so if you don't see the image, it's in the video description below. What I'm going to do, I'm going to brighten the image because you know something, some of those darks that Alexander was mentioning, they're hard to see. So sometimes I'll brighten things way more so I can see them a little bit better. Okay, let's see if that helped. Yeah, because there's this stuff down here that I really, really like. Now, I definitely want this where the carrots come together. Okay, I think I maybe have a clue. Let's sketch. I don't want to sketch with orange. I used brown yesterday. I feel like brown is such a default color to sketch with. And I don't want to do purple either because purple is in the beets themselves. Sometimes I like to figure out the color by a process of elimination, and that's a good way for me to figure it out. Maybe I should do blue. Or maybe I should just do the teal again. Yeah, I'll do that. Well, it's not teal. This one is permanent green deep. It is PB. Oh, God, you guys, I cannot read. I need my glasses. Sorry about that. Okay, we need to know because there is that stereotype that artists are not good at sports. I was good at volleyball. I was a league all-star my senior year. Tell us, do you watch sports? Have you played sports? Because you know what's really funny is actually a lot of the things that I talked to all of you about in terms of focus and practice and productivity, those are all things that are absolutely a part of sports. I'm going to try to find the spot where the carrots all come together with that tie. I think that's the focal point in terms of where to begin. But the question is, how much of the top of the carrot do I want? I think I want a little more than that. Look at this. I did one stroke. And even with that one stroke, I can tell if this is where I want it to be, because I'm already seeing, based on that one stroke, this whole area up here, which is for the top of the carrots, is too small. A lot of sizing, people have been asking me, oh, I draw it too small, I draw it too big, has to do with catching it early. I did one mark. That's basically as early as you can get in terms of catching things. But I do want the length of the carrots. I'm going to say move it down. So this is the elastic that's holding them together. I'm going to do a couple quick strokes. See if there truly is enough space here, because I want to make sure I get those beets in. Those beets are really cool. They look like they're hiding. You know what they look like? Jordan and I did a creature design workshop today, and we were talking about all these different kinds of creatures from mythology and movies and stuff like that. And one of the creatures that came up was those cave trolls in Lord of the Rings. You know, the ones that throw rocks? But I remember those were dark colored animals, and so they really felt like they were emerging out of the darkness, and that was one thing I really liked about them. I'm reevaluating this tiny carrot because I think I might have... Is that too... I think there's too much space here. Okay, so here are the beets, and I think this length is too high because I know that the little carrot lines up with the top of the beet, which means... Well, but then again, maybe this is too big. Let me put in, there's this one carrot here that might help me. This one's, I would consider a landmark. Oh, and there's this really cool one. Does everybody see this one? It's sort of like wrapping around the other one. It's bumpy too. It looks like it's a little swollen. It's sort of silly. Okay, I would like to know, who else does this? I always talk to Magda in art club about how both of us, whenever we go to the grocery store, we always take note of unusually shaped produce. I always do that. For real, I always go and I look at the sweet potatoes because there's always one sweet potato that is extra lumpy or is too long and looks like a stomach. Or I've seen some really amazing sweet potatoes. And then the other reason too, which I think is hilarious, is that Taiwan, where my parents are from, the shape of Taiwan is like a sweet potato. And so I don't remember the words, but Taiwan is referred to in Taiwan as a sweet potato. And I just think that's really funny. What really was hilarious, though, is when I went to the Taiwan National Museum, maybe it's called Taipei, I can't remember. It's their really, really big museum, which is in Taipei. And they have two pieces of artwork there that they're very famous for. One of them is a piece of jade, but it is carved to look like lettuce. And if you look it up, you'll see that the color of the jade matches where the lettuce is more green and where the lettuce is more blue. And then the other piece of art that they are very famous for is a little sculpture, same thing, that looks like a piece of pork. If you're into Asian food, you know what I'm talking about, the really fatty pork, it's like more than half fat. It's probably really bad for you, but it's a dish you'll see a lot. And I was laughing because my family is really obsessed with food, okay? And I know that lots of people like food, blah, 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 and there's a term foodie, but it's like the amount of time we spend talking about food is extremely disproportionate to everything else. When we go and travel, that's all we want to do is like, well, I want to look at art stuff too, but so much of our time is spent thinking about and plotting about food. And I think that's a cultural thing in some places, like people really care about food. And I just found it so perfect that everything that has to do with Taiwan in terms of as a culture, it's all about food. Like, of course, our two national treasures that are in the museum are two pieces of food. And I thought to myself, that is so Taiwanese for that to be the case. Oh, yes, pork belly. That's it, Anna. Yes, pork belly. You guys can look it up. Did anybody look it up? Maybe somebody can put it in the Discord. But the hilarious thing is you go there and everything in museum shop is about that piece of pork and that little jade lettuce. In fact, I have refrigerator magnets that are of that little piece of lettuce. Someday I'll make Clara's Art Adventures into a TV show on a streaming service. But that's my pipe dream. Like, I always thought, oh, Art Prof is going to be my swan song. This is my thing. But then I started traveling and got so hooked. And now that's my dream. But as we all know, it takes time to make that happen. And I don't have any relatives that are Netflix executives. But I'm still holding on to that dream. It's still there. I may not be able to work on it all the time, but I do have a YouTube channel that is separate. Some of you guys can check it out. It's Clara's Art Adventures. and it's in the description below. I don't post there very often, so don't go there expecting daily videos because it's not going to happen. But I always thought to myself, well, if anybody's ever interested, I do think I need to have a channel that's separate from Art Prof, because we have travel videos here, but they're, of course, a little bit buried from the other things that we do. And speaking of traveling, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Lauren was in Brazil. And I asked her, I was like, oh my God, what did you eat? She was like, actually, it wasn't that good. I was like, what? Maybe you ate at the wrong places. Because I'm sorry, people in the UK, out of all the countries I went to, that was the food I wasn't that excited about. When I was in Britain, what I did eat was a lot of Indian food. Oh my God, the Indian food. I mean, granted, I've not been to India, but the Indian food in Britain was incredible. I've never had Indian food like that. But that's what fascinates me about art and travel, is that everything is interconnected. Because, okay, we are right now painting this image of these carrots, okay? We could look at them and say, oh yeah, they're carrots, they're pretty. But to me, there's a story behind these carrots. There's a reason why they're different colors. There's the people that grew it. I mean, usually at a farmer's market, the people that grew it are the people who are selling. And I love talking to people at markets about their stuff. And you can get really great stories from them because they care so much about what they do. It's really a labor of love. And just hearing about that, oh, it's one of the best things. And I love finding produce that I didn't know about. I can't remember. What is that fruit? Has anybody here been to Portugal? It looks like a orange fig, and it starts with a P. And actually, it was not that tasty. It was okay. I didn't mind it. But what is that fruit again? I thought that fruit was really weird looking, and it grew on trees. We were going to the Tile Museum in Lisbon, and they had these trees everywhere that had it growing. And so here you've got a story. There's a story behind the carrots. And I just think that's the most tremendous thing, that a single object could hold so much story and history and say things about the agriculture there. Like, isn't that incredible that you could just look at a carrot and there's so much story there? Tell me in the comments, is there a particular type of food or produce or anything like that which is specific to your area that you could share with us? Because that's one of my favorite things being in the Discord. Like, people are telling me about candy in Argentina, and I learned about some really great things. Good recommendations for travel. Although I haven't been able to do any fun travel lately. I really did want to go to the printmaking conference, but I looked at those prices for the hotel and I just went, oh my God, no, that is not happening. Okay, I think I need to get in. There's a big leaf, one big leaf in the beet that I do think needs a lot more time on it. It's hard to see, but I just want to indicate a little bit of the contour just so it's present. To me, that's the main thing. I don't need things to look good. I just need them to be there. So at the very least, this just places that leaf, and so I don't feel totally lost. Yeah, not going to try to be adventurous at all today with composition. It's a pretty complicated image, and so I just don't feel like challenging myself. I think this will be fun. There's just so many different textures here, so many colors. I mean, I'm sure I'm not going to do it much justice in terms of what it actually needs, but we'll just do the best we can. All right. Let's get a reference of where I am into the Discord, and we should also take a look at what people in the Discord are doing, but I do want to get some close-ups so people can take a look. You know what's really funny, everybody? In terms of researching gouache for the marathon, I was like, oh, I know James Gurney has amazing gouache videos, and maybe I should watch some of his videos. But you know what? I didn't. You know why? Like, for real, this is why. I was like, oh man, he's so good. I'm going to feel really crappy if I watch his video. So I was like, I'll do the gouache marathon, get my feet wet, and then I'll watch a James Gurney gouache video. I mean, I've seen them before. I just haven't watched one recently. But has anybody ever had that where you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to learn this thing. I should go look at somebody who does it really well and maybe think about what I can take from them. And then you do that and you end up really discouraged. Has anybody had that happen? Because we always talk so much about artists and how they can inspire us, how we can get ideas, and that's all true. But I have definitely had circumstances where I sat down to do a watercolor. I thought about Winslow Homer, and everything just went to crap. I'm like, I don't need you in my head, Winslow Homer. Okay, you're nice when I have time to, but you're not helpful when I'm sitting at the pond trying to do your thing. That has definitely happened to me on multiple occasions. So specifically, I did not watch his videos. I'm sure they're extremely instructive, but sometimes I feel like the better way to learn something totally new can be just diving in with very little information. There are some media where I don't think that's a great idea, like oil painting. I don't think I would ever do that because there's like safety stuff and everything. But for something like gouache or watercolor, you have to worry about that. Sometimes it's fun to dive in, just do whatever, and then go and watch the tutorials. Has anybody ever done that? Or are people feeling like they're more prepared if they do the research and watch the tutorials first? Because I think for me, I'm better when I just try it, mess it around, and then somehow it feels like I'm a lot more focused when I go back and watch the tutorial because I've now had the experience of understanding why given reason. Starving Artist says, memorable dish at an indigenous cafe, crocodile, salad and chips and fries. It really tasted like chicken. I've never had crocodile before. Okay, so Jen says that almost always happens to me. Oh, Paula, you got to go to the National Tile Museum. Wouldn't have known about it if it weren't for our video. It's not a museum that's like the Prado in Madrid. It's not like the go-to museum, but it's so wonderful. And it really teaches you about the history of not just the genre of tiles, but also the impact of the various industries around it in Portugal. And so that's where a lot of times art is talked about as art, but there's so much history in every single artwork. You ask any artist, it can be the most simple picture of a jelly bean. And there's a story behind that jelly bean. Why did you buy it? Who made it? Where did you get it? Actually, has anybody here been to the Jelly Belly factory in California? I really want to go because one of my friends went, and you know what they sell? They sell the mess up Jelly Bellies. So you could get just like a big bag of like messed up Jelly Bellies. I really want to go there. And then the other factory I went to was the Cape Cod Potato Chip Factory. That was super fun. Tell me in the comments, has anybody been to a cool factory like that? Because I would really love to go to the Jelly Belly factory someday. Suna says, my family is in Iceland. They have these teeny tiny berries called crowberries. They're super seedy and sour, but I used to love picking them as a kid. I feel like I saw something similar in Hawaii because they were very tiny and they were tart. Maybe. Welcome, Omizu, to the live stream. Yeah, Anna, it wasn't persimmons. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up later. I don't like persimmons. Sorry. I know people love them. I'm not as into them. Oh, I did read about. So Jay Bree says pawpaw in Ohio. Weird little banana thing that tastes like berries and pears. I read an article about it, but I've never had that before. Yeah, it wasn't pomelo. I don't know. Somebody has to figure it out for me. Randy, yes. Maybe if I add the word bizarre, it will make people want to watch it. But I guess Andrew Zimmerman from Bizarre Foods already has that area covered. Oh, George says, okay, this is going back to the conversation about sports. Made high school tolerable. I was a science nerd, but started on the football team ahead of many of the jocks. They couldn't rag on me because of that. Yeah, the thing is, like, later you find out that all the nerds are the ones who are like selling their businesses for millions of dollars. So I will never understand why the football thing is such a big deal because I mean, sure, some people go pro, but oh my gosh, all those stories about people who get injured as football players or other athletes, it's oh my gosh, just heartbreaking. Pasquale says, I used to do that when I volunteered at the food bank. Grocery store got rid of their strange produce to donate because I know it won't sell. All right. Well, Cookie Monster, you are defying the stereotype. Art is not good at sports. I'm very athletic and can run the marathon. That is not me. I will never in my life ever be able to run a marathon. And actually, since we moved out to Utah, my spouse has been running a lot in the mountains and like going to like deep mountains in southern Utah, and it looks cool. But and he's like, you don't understand. If you run these races, you'll be able to see this incredible landscape. I'm like, yeah, but I have to run the race first. Like that's not fun. See, Holly, you're speaking my language. Painting over sports anytime. Although Val, I don't give a rat's buttocks about sports or the Super Bowl, so I'm staying here. All right. Let's take a look, everybody, at what is happening in the Art Marathons channel. Oh, wow. A lot of people getting going. Looks like Rowan is working on some radishes. Oh, I am a fan of the way, Rowan, you're making the purple and the red a similar color value. In retrospect, I realized that was something I did in the painting yesterday, which was the painting yesterday had very low contrast. In terms of value, it was very gray, especially for me, because I don't tend to do that. But in retrospect, it made me realize I worked harder to get a wider range of colors because the value range was more limited. Marie is here painting along. Welcome. Lisa, you found something about those paper towels because you were using them yesterday, but now maybe they are becoming the actual artwork itself. I really believe that artists would not be capable of all that they can do if the paper towel did not exist. I do try to use rags whenever I can, but there are certain circumstances where it's like, yeah, I really can't do that. Welcome, Big Mike, to the live stream. Hope you guys can post what you've been up to in art marathons in the Discord. Okay, so Lisa is staining. Used yesterday's gouache painting as a background for my Art Dare photo shoot of the banana split glass. Has anybody here heard of that? I know about deviled eggs plates, but I've never heard about one for bananas. That's some industrial designer definitely filling a very important niche. Canada is working on my ball jointed doll. Oh, what kind of clay is this? Is it ceramic clay that you'll fire? Very cool. Oh, I'd love to hear more about that. I don't know if you're going to be adding string or something else. Sinead is working on a new painting idea. Okay, so we have, oh, these are fantastic thumbnails. Huge amount of variety. And also, I love how you are really making an effort to contextualize the birds. And there's so many of them. That's the other thing about birds that's extremely important. Well, not birds, thumbnails, is to have all of those options. And I love these little painting studies. These are a really nice transition. I know for a lot of people going from a pencil sketch into the final painting, it's sort of abrupt. And so sometimes a little painting study like this can be very helpful. Tara got a new birthday sketchbook. Oh, that's super cute. I love the ladybug. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, they're like, yeah, we should have a insects and bugs workshop. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And I'll do it, even though I hate bugs. Like, I hate bugs. I think they're gross. I know they're fascinating and beautiful and an incredible part of the world, but oh, they gross me out so bad. Does anybody here like bugs or hate them as much as I do? I mean, they're fine. It's not like I have a phobia or something, but they gross me out. But they are fascinating in terms of visuals, all those textures and structures. But I was like, ew, I hate bugs. Okay, so Sinead says they're Australian magpies. Took this photo, like the motion of them. It's going to be a bigger oil painting. Well, that's funny. We were talking about magpies in the creature design workshop today as well. Yeah, actually, Anna had just mentioned this was something that Anna did in the creature design workshop. This is for a graphic novel that Anna has been working on. It's so much fun. Like all these different learning spaces we have, we all intersect in so many ways. So I oftentimes find I'm talking about something in one space and then it gets brought up in another. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. We're going to get into the color. I just can't wait to add that orange. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with teal. I know some people have arachnophobia, and I confess I didn't realize how intense it could be because somebody in the Discord told me that even if they look at a cartoon picture of a spider, they can't handle it. However, I do like grubs. I think grubs are really cute. And my spouse found one that was kind of big for a grub and very squishy. And I really wish I had gone on that hike with him just so I could have seen that grub. Because, oh my God, it was adorable. Like if I had time, I totally would like a little doll of that grub. That would be an awesome birthday present for me. Okay, we're going to mix up. I think I'm going to put in the super, super bright, intense orange first, just as a landmark for how intense I want those colors to be. Well, Sinead, I'm so glad that you participated. First time posting in the Discord, still lots of work to do on it. Well, I'm so glad you guys are coming into the Discord because we do a lot of cool things in there. And a lot of people do not have access to a lot of artists? Tell me in the comments. Okay, if there was no internet, okay, what would be your connection to other artists? Would you even have a connection with other artists? Because I'm very lucky. I know. Okay, there's 2 reds. This is carmine. This one is flame red. And I think between the two, okay, flame red looks more like cadmium red light. Carmine looks more like cadmium red deep. Let's use the flame red because I want something that's very orange, which has a lot of yellow in it. And everybody, even if you are shy and maybe don't want to chat a lot, I'd love it for you just to say hello because it's so nice to see all the different voices. So I'm very lucky. I do have artist friends and colleagues and former professors, but I do know a lot of people do not. Sometimes people will take a local class. Continuing education is a great way to do that. But I do think a lot of artists do not have people in their lives who really they can talk to. And tell me if you guys think this is the case. I think it's the case, but I want to check with all of you first. Do you think that we really have our own language? No, and I don't mean just like, oh, we can talk about art things together. It really is like, have you ever tried to talk to somebody about anything creative or anything artwork related and thought to yourself, as you're telling these people, you guys have no idea and you don't care about what I'm talking about. Have you guys had that conversation? Something about your artwork, something creative or about a project, and you're talking to those people and they're like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I'm not insulting them in that they should care about me necessarily. And by the way, everybody, I am mixing a little bit of white on top because the yellow is so transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up quite a bit of white into the orange just for the first layer. And then later I will go in and add the more saturated colors on top. Totally forgot about that. Because like I said, I'm lucky that I have access to all these artist people. And so I'm used to people understanding and knowing why I do things. But then it's like you go and talk to other people and you forget that people really have no idea what it is you're doing. And I think for me, sometimes that's just like, oh, yes, I remember that. Because it depends on where you are in life, but especially in high school, I really did not have somebody who truly understood it. Like I was actually embarrassed in high school for feeling that intense about art. And I just think that stinks. Like, why should you be embarrassed about what you're passionate about? I think that's a bad thing. But that's the way it was because nobody had the language that I was wanting at the time. I couldn't have those kinds of conversations. I know it's almost like people don't hear you. Like you'll say things and it's just like in one ear, out the other. And I really think it's because they just do not understand our language. Okay, I'm realizing right now that I think I'm not loose enough. I think I got to be looser. That happens a lot when I'm at the beginning of a piece. So I do anticipate that. But really, it can be extremely isolating to think, gosh, am I the only one that gets this excited about this thing? And then you start questioning yourself. And so then when you come and you talk to people, and this happened for me, I go to art school and I meet these people who are even more intense than me, who are even more into what they do. And that was an amazing experience for me because then you realize, wow, I could be so much more. I'm not pushing myself enough. And so because you've seen their work, you level up a lot. And that's the great thing about being around other artists, is that you can have that degree of inspiration. And I'm always so grateful that I have had that experience. But it's like genuinely, it can be sort of upsetting to feel like what you're doing is so undervalued and that you're so alone in that space. So I'm wondering if it's been like that for other people, if it's been as intense. Sometimes it can be a really difficult thing for a lot of people. And a lot of it depends on where you live. I mean, if you live in a big city, chances are, and it depends on if you could afford it, but there are options. Like you could go to the art museum, but if you live somewhere that is maybe more rural, maybe there aren't too many options. Okay. So I'd love to know, because while there are so many problems with the internet, I do think one thing it has done well is it has provided opportunities for people to find people who are similar, to validate who they are. And I'm not just talking about art. I think that's the case in a lot of other circumstances as well. I mean, it's not always peaches and cream. There certainly are a million challenges for how any of that plays out. But if us having the Discord, it's one place that maybe could satisfy that desire to not feel totally estranged from everybody around you, then I think we've done something good. I'm trying to figure out, I might want to do some bigger shapes, because I think right now I'm more painting carrot by carrot, and I think that's a bad idea. I think I need to paint more around. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mix like a dark orange. I'm going to put a little bit of blue into it, and we'll do some of the oranges, not oranges. We'll do some of the carrots that are like underneath in the shadows. I think I'm just going to block in a big color, and then we can go from there. Oh, that's not dark enough at all. Jeez, I thought that was going to be a lot darker. Okay, we're going to add a lot of blue and maybe some purple as well, because I think the value range just isn't there right now. I got to simplify. I think I'm thinking carrot by carrot, and that is a bad idea right now. Oh, man. I think I need to mix something really dark. Maybe I'll go to the beets for a second. I just think I'm getting a little caught up right now. Well, but I don't want to add the dark values yet. I think I just need something sort of dull and gray. You know what I need? I need a big brush. That brush is not good. Why did I start with that brush, you guys? That's so against my better judgment. Okay, this is the brush. This is going to help me. And by the way, if anybody here, if you're looking for information like the materials I'm using, I am using Holbein today, or if you want to see the reference image, the supply list, everything is in the YouTube video description below. And we also have the Gouache Marathon page that is also in the YouTube video description below. So you guys can all go there if that is information that you would like to have. Okay, we're going to go for like a muddy red. See, it's like, even though I know against my best judgment to do that, I still do it. Oh, that's too dark. I don't want to go that dark right now. But I do want to paint big. You see, this is why you should not start with a small brush. See how it screwed me over? Don't trust it. And I think little negative shapes like this that are going, like, that's the type of thing I should have been doing. Why did I go for the carrots first? That was kind of dumb that I did that. Oh, well. It's like even when you know you should do things, you do it anyway. I feel like that's a food thing where I'm like, I really shouldn't eat this candy, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then after you eat it, you're like, why? That was a very bad idea. I should have been doing this from the beginning. Now I feel like a dope that I didn't do that. Painterly. I need to be painterly. You guys, I'm not doing it today. Come on, I gotta think bigger. Why is this taking so long? This is a part of the painting I really should be okay just tossing in really fast. But I did not do it, and now I'm paying the price. Okay, on this side, I'm going to do a brown, but it's going to have a lot of red in it. It's going to be a dark reddish brown because this side is a little bit more bluish. I don't know. I guess I'm worried I'm going to like lose a carrot, but it shouldn't matter. Yeah, I'm just going to paint over. Come on. This will feel better once I just have it covered. Like this is a stage. I don't want to spend too much time at this stage because I'll get in trouble. You know, I wonder if I could just wash. Oh, I guess that gets rid of the teal. Let's make a bigger mess. That's what I'm missing. I need the mess. Yeah, let's mess with the whole thing. Okay, let's just do it. Here we go. That's what I needed. You know, it does take time to warm up. It's not something that we can all do quickly. But that's getting in more of the shapes. Oh, that already feels better. Not as in looks good feels better, but feels looser. I'm leaving a couple of the carrots here, and then I'll smush in some green. And that will feel better. I'm not somebody who is intuitively loose as a painter. Who here feels, in terms of painting, tighter, looser? Which one do you think you lean towards? I definitely lean towards tight. Okay, we're going to get in some. I'm just going to smush in some green into that upper section. Sort of like a yellowy green. We're just going to put in a quick glaze. Well, it's kind of nice it rehydrates, so I can just move things into each other. So I'm just adding some blobs. See, when it's a mess, you don't have to worry so much. Okay, and up here, it's a little bit more of a light bluish green. It's not quite as yellow as what's happening down there. And this way, we can paint the carrots right on top. Ah, oh, that feels better. Oh, yay. Now I'm going to go back to the brush that I should not have started with. I just want to get the other ones blocked in. And then I will reevaluate. Okay, so we're going to do that really pale yellow carrot. That's at the top. It needs a lot of white because a lot of you guys nailed me on not using enough white past few streams. Yeah, it looks like a lot of you guys lean towards loose. I don't lean towards loose at all. I always want to tighten up. I wish I could lean loose. Oh, that's definitely not enough white. Really got to build up that opacity. Oh, that's better. Okay, that, oh, nice and opaque. Perfect. That is pretty satisfying to go in and add. And I'm not going to be super precise about the shape of the carrot. I think the point is that they're all weird and knobby. I think that's enough for us to understand. I'm not going to add the others right now. I do need to get that like purpley one in the middle. And that one, I am going to add a little bit of white because, again, the opacity, and I can always put stuff on top. So this purple carrot is going to be brighter than it actually is, and then I'll darken it up later. So this is what I talk to about people often, is anticipating the layers. Like, what are you doing for this layer, and how does that impact the next one? Because oftentimes the thing you're doing in the first layer is setting you up to do something else. And that's not really possible until you've really had some experience painting in various forms. Actually, this one's a little bit magenta. Add a little bit of... I'm just approximating right now. These are all going to change, I'm sure. So this is not a nicely outlined carrot, but it just sort of holds the space to say, okay, that area has like a reddish part. And then up here too, I'm just indicating, okay, there's a color kind of like that, and then I'll go through later, I'll delineate the actual carrot so it doesn't look like whatever. Okay, I'm going to smush in a couple of dark spots just so I fill this in. Like, I'm trying to get rid of all those edges of the underpainting. And I might go in and blend a couple things before we get back into this. That feels better. Why did I not just start with that? Okay, so let's go through. We're just going to blend a couple spots because I don't like having those lines around. Makes it feel really unfinished. So this just fills everything in a bit. And I don't mind everything being so smeary right now because all of that is going to change later on. Cool. Actually, I need to make this darker. Sorry, I always have to change the camera settings depending on what my painting is doing. All right, let's get some images into the Discord so all of you can see better what is going on. Oh, wait. Okay. Gonna just get in some quick close-ups and also some of the colors that I mixed. Remember, we are in the Art Marathons channel. That's where you can post anything you are working on so we can take a look. Bunch of people told me the case for you. A lot of people told me that they got a ton of work done during the marathons. Has that been the case for any of you? Because sometimes it's about having something to keep you accountable, and especially when you work with other people. I don't know, it just feels easier. Like if it's just me by myself, I mean, yes, I can decide to work, but it just sort of keeps me more awake, I suppose, because Jordan used to live stream on his channel, Joe McFaux. He used to live stream on Sundays at 7 every week, and I'd always turn it on, not because I was participating. I had work I needed to do. Andy because I felt like he was just hanging out with me, but I didn't have any social pressure to And by the way, apologies to everybody. I'm going to type this in here. My internet hasn't been great. Sorry if it goes in and out here and there. Because the other thing about working on stuff, I do think there is something to be said about intensive, long periods of working. We can't always make that happen. A lot of the times it's 10 minutes here, half an hour there. That is extremely common. But when we have the opportunity to paint together 3 days in a row, intensively, have those conversations, share, get the work done, it's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. You guys can tell me. I think it is because I'm enjoying it and it's keeping me awake. Like when I get to paint 3 days in a row, I feel much better. If I am painting for a half an hour once a week, it doesn't feel great. All right, so Butter validating my suspicion. I've gotten so much done in both marathons. Oh, I'm sorry you've been sick, Neil. That's okay. Gotta have time to be sick. That's fine. Neil is asking, is the eye painting on the thumbnail Alex Rose painting? Yes. We have a very limited number of gouache paintings that have been done here. Hopefully this marathon is changing that. But you know what I was looking at it, I was like, I think it's an acrylic painting. Whatever. I always change the thumbnail after the stream anyway. It's just a placeholder for now. Let's see. Alexander says, I think you would enjoy and benefit from a large cat's tongue brush, flat with a tent shape that can make both fine lines and thick ones. Oh, well, somebody wants to look that up and throw it into the Discord. I can definitely take a look at that later. CL says, didn't realize how lucky I was to be able to taught art with my mom and sister or to bounce ideas off of them. And it's not just necessarily that they had to be visual artists, but just being with creative people. Like my mother-in-law, I think she's an artist. She doesn't paint pictures like I do, but the way she talks about color and texture and like absolutely I'm talking to an artist when I talk to her about things like that. Yeah, I'm using Holbein today. I wasn't able to get Daniel Smith because it was just so expensive and we didn't get enough funding for that, but maybe next time. Yeah, I wish it was Daniel Smith, but I just couldn't put down the money. It was just so much. Let's see what people are saying about that language barrier that I do think is difficult for a lot of people. Oh, we do have a question here from Robert. And by the way, everybody, if you have a question you'd like to ask me, please type question in all caps and I will try to make sure I catch it. If I miss your question, just type it in again. But that can help it because there's a lot of comments and sometimes I will miss it. View on colored ground. If you could follow up, Robert, on what you mean by colored ground, are you talking about something like, is it distemper? Somebody remind me because in Andrew Raftery's class, we did do that. I'm pretty sure it's called distemper. And it was really cool. I never did it again after that. But are you talking about that or are you talking about what I did today, which is where I just did a quick underpainting? Because there's so many different types of grounds. So Randy says, I think I'd only have books. Probably have to go to the library way more and borrow way more. No in real life art friends, unfortunately. Well, welcome, Samarin, to the live stream. Sinead says, I'm an introvert, so without the internet, it'd just be me and some books. Suna says, what I think is interesting is talking creative with someone who does a totally different craft. It's like the same thing, different font. Oh, absolutely. And you know what's funny is I do think there are creative people out there who are not in any art field, like specific art field. Like one of my friends is a geriatrician and she's a super creative person. Like I can talk to her about figure drawing and she understands. And you know something? I have friends who have taken art classes and have some experience, and I don't feel like I can really talk to them because it's like they're a different type of creative, or they don't think about creativity in the same way. It's like you can have artists around you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are people you can talk to or get feedback from. I have plenty of artist friends. I don't get feedback from them because we're friends, but artistically it doesn't quite line up. Pasquale says, all the time, my family is made of doctors, lawyers, and computer programming. Anna says, I wish my therapist could understand my art more. Well, I had a therapist once who really frustrated me because she kept trying to bring up other options for my profession, because this is way back when I was so frustrated with academia, and so I inevitably that would come up because that was a part of my life. And I got so frustrated when she would try to make suggestions about, oh, well, here are different things you could do to do this. Or she'd be like, couldn't you think about this? And it's not her fault that she doesn't understand how these industries work, but she'd always say things to me like, well, what about art history? You could do that. I'm like, no, I need a PhD to teach art history at the college level. Or what about this? And I'm like, that's not related. It was so hard to talk to her about that. And eventually I just stopped bringing it up because I didn't like being given all that advice. It was well intended, but it was just so deeply misguided in terms of what would actually be viable to me as an option. Chad says, I remember purposely making a sculpture in high school badly after the teacher complimented it for the wrong reason. Oh, you like that here? Now it's a toilet. Paula says, yes, or what is annoying is when they think they can know how to fix all my art frustrations because they've been to a few museum exhibits in their life. There are so many people who I talk to in art club and workshops, in the Discord. They tell me how much stress their families put them through trying to tell them how they should do their art, saying things like that shouldn't take that long, or just totally wrong advice. And I'm like, who are you to think you have that expertise to tell somebody like that? Like, I'm not going to tell a neurologist, well, I don't think your surgery should take that long. I mean, it's just so not needed. Alexander says, or how hurtful they actually are when they respond to your work with, oh, that's nice. Because I can tell who says, oh, that's nice. I can tell who's listening to me. And sometimes the sentence is not that long. I don't know. It's like in the tone, it's in the person. You just know that they understand. I think maybe that's all it is. It's just another situation where we feel understood, not just as an artist, but as a person. We feel like people are bypassing what it is and maybe not taking the time to see us. And I think that in general, that's what humans want. We just want to be seen. We want to be acknowledged. Randy says, I tend to compare drawing to a job and school. Sometimes you don't want to go, but when you do, you're glad you went. That's the gym for me. I pretty much never want to go, but when I do, I'm always glad I went. Tali says, being on the art marathons have been wonderful to keep me company while finishing up writing for my characters. Girl Jordan says, my mom is artistic, but everything should have a price on it for her. It's hard to do art for fun. Oh yeah, that happens a lot. And a lot of people will tell me that they really don't like when somebody says, you should sell that. Because it's like, sometimes you don't want to sell it. Sometimes that's not even close to anything you want to do. And people trying to always getting you to monetize. I think that is frustrating for a lot of artists because yes, some people do want to monetize, but other people, it's just annoying to be told you should monetize it. I think that's the thing that frustrates me. Yeah, like Randy here says, whenever I mention being an artist or doing art around certain people, they mention money and selling. Sinead says, my family's pretty relaxed, but I think that's an Australian thing. Oh, really? Like Hugh Jackman, Australian? Neil's asking, is a cat's tongue brush the same thing as a filbert? I don't think so. Okay, I think I need some visuals in the Discord to help me out here, everybody, because I actually don't know what some of these things are. So let's go into the Discord and take a look. Oh, I love this pumpkin, Tara. Oh, this is really beautiful. I like how you rounded the strokes, but then in the grass, the strokes are really haphazard. I think that really shows the range of textures. And then also up here, the stem, so fluid. The variety here is really outstanding. Okay, so Marie has a question. Do you apply your own thought process and method for this painting to other pieces using this? Oh, using another medium. Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the stuff that we talk about, knocking in big shapes, developing all of the parts of the painting at the same rate. That is across the board something I think about, whether I'm doing sculpture or drawing, it just gets articulated differently. Like a lot of people, if you think about sculpture, okay, one of the things that I do a lot with sculpture is in sculpture, let's say this is my sculpture tool, I do a lot of planes. So a lot of people might think, oh, sculpture, okay, you take your hands and you pinch the clay. No, actually, I take a tool and, hang on, let me see. What's the better angle? Okay, I'll take it and I'll just cut. So I'll cut down a plane of clay. And that is my version of doing a big shape in painting. All right, so here are some of the close-ups. If anybody wants to really take a look at my muddy colors. And great to see the earlier versions as well. So everybody feel free to post incremental progress. We love seeing all that stuff. All right, automotive sandpaper from Butter. Oh my God, there's 10 billion types of sandpaper. I feel like every time I go to the hardware store to get sandpaper, I want to die. I mean, I don't use it for anything that specific. So Marie says, other than the artist and art prof, I don't know other artists. It's not unusual for me to think about art and my current art projects all day long. Art prof allows me to be with like-minded people who have a passion for art. Well, how many of you do that? Have a project, you're just thinking about it all the time. I was not thinking about carrots today, but I have been thinking about them all week. And I have been asking myself, well, should I do this? Should I do that? And it's not that deep. It's more like, maybe, maybe not. But this stuff, it sticks with you. I don't think you can be an artist and not think about your work so much of the time outside of making it. I mean, I'm sure scientists must have similar things. You have projects that you want to develop, they're just on your mind. Oh, so this is what is this brush called? Happy, because we also have this one here. Now this is an angler brush, right? This one I do have, or maybe it's different than the angler brush. All right, so Marie says, friends and family always recommend that I sell my work. I know they mean well. However, it makes me feel that if my pieces don't make money, somehow it is not good. Whatever happened to drawing and painting because you enjoy it? Well, it's here. We all draw and paint here. Well, we hope to draw and paint because we love it. It's a labor of love. And I wonder if that's just, I don't know, maybe it's just the world in general. Everything has to be about money. I mean, I am really surprised. Oftentimes, I'll step outside of the art world, not the commercial art world, just the making stuff. And I'll realize, oh, wow, everybody just wants to know how anything makes money. It's like it's the first question you get asked. But in art, that isn't the case. Oh, this is a dagger brush. Is that it? Okay, so Chad says that is a dagger. Although I think that was the other brush. That was this one? Or maybe it was this one. Is this the dagger brush? I'll leave it up for a sec and maybe somebody can tell me. Because it is a little different than mine. Tally says, that's me with my comics projects and illustrated book projects. Okay, this one is a cat tongue. And the second one is a dagger. Okay, I'll look it up because there are all these photos. And I'll take a look again also after the live stream so we can see. Okay, awesome. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's get back into this. Sorry, I guess I did get it backwards, Alexander. Thank you. Okay, let me zoom out a little so we can really see the whole thing. Okay. So watercolor Levin Dog. Slanted one is the dagger from what I know. Okay, thank you. I will check it out. But first we have some carrots to paint. Speaking of carrots, who here likes carrots? And if you do like carrots, how do you like them cooked? I really like roast carrots with cumin. Very, very easy to do. And just a little spike of taste beyond salt and pepper. Although if I'm very lazy, I will just use salt and pepper. Okay, I think I need more drawing. So let's do some drawing to articulate some of these better. I'm going to use like a purpley color for this. Sort of dark, a little bit neutral. And then we'll see. Let me move this over here because I know my little head. Okay, I got to still squint though. I got to resist the temptation to go in and do everything. I'm going to try doing some very subtle light lines. We're just going to try to capture more of the chaos of what's happening. Although I think that's too dark. I think I should make it a little bit lighter. Gosh, I feel like I need my glasses for this. When I was, I don't know, I think when I was like 35, I went to see my eye doctor, and I loved my eye doctor in Boston. He was so nice. My favorite doctor ever. Anyway, he was very funny. He said to me, yeah, Clara, once you hit 50, it's all downhill from there for your eyesight. Well, maybe it was like 45. It was something like that. I was like, like these are the types of things they don't tell you to think about when you're a teenager. You don't think that these things are going to happen, and then they do, and you're like, oh my God. Although, you know what I really want? I want to be one of those women with like all that beautiful gray and white hair. I really want that. I think that is so pretty. And it's always like multiple shades of gray. It's not just like one. Although I did meet an amazing art teacher at a conference, and she had like pure white hair, and she had dyed her hair to have one just huge stripe of like bright purple. She looked amazing. I was like, man, someday maybe I'll be that cool. But the eyeglass thing, ugh. Like, I used to be able to go to a restaurant and read the menu and be like, "Oh, I don't need my glasses." Yeah, because before I was like, "Oh, I need it because I'm reading a book or whatever." And now it's like, "Oh, I need it for, like, freaking everything." You know, I was thinking because I was looking at the painting from yesterday. I think gouache is good for me because it does get muddy, but I think it's teaching me to not be so reliant on dark stuff. I think that's a good thing for me because that's what happened yesterday. Like, I made a painting that did not have a very broad range of value. And for me, that's extremely unusual. So maybe gouache is going to teach me to get off all of my dependency on dark values. Oh, these beets are hard to see. I just want to get their roundness in here so I can differentiate where they are. This one has a big tail. Do people like beets? I feel like beets are not a vegetable that a lot of people like. Like, my kids won't eat beets. They think they're gross. And my family member's friend gave her this recipe for Russian beet salad that was really good. And it looks weird because it's chopped up beets with garlic, mayonnaise, and sour cream and pecans. But because of the sour cream, it turns like bright pink. It doesn't even look real because the pink is so bright. Okay, I'm losing track on the carrots. Come on, come back. You know what I might do? I might like insinuate the ones on the back, but maybe I can make the rest in the back look really blobby because I'm not going to paint every single one. There's just no chance. Like, this is definitely one I want to pop out better. This is definitely a painting. I mean, I could spend so long on this. So many parts. Now I need to start counting carrots. It's a lot to observe. Do people here find when you're looking at something, does it ever get exhausting just looking? I'm not even talking the painting part. Like, looking at a painting and trying to follow where the carrots are, where the leaves are. Does anybody find that exhausting? Because I do. I find that very difficult to have to follow each beat. And there's this one parsnip, I think it's a parsnip, maybe not, back here that is being a rebel. Going in a different direction. He's marching to his own tune. Oh, I kind of like this blue. I'm using blue for the lines. It's kind of fun. Oh, you know what's so good? I don't know how to make it, and I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but you know that, dish, borscht? It's that beet soup. So good. Ah, I am getting lost here. Too many carrots. I just need the ones that need to pop, and then everything else can go back. Also, there's some that are like rounder. Or is that foreshortening? Do you guys know, is this carrot, is that a round carrot or is it a foreshortened carrot? Because I can't tell. I think it's foreshortened, but I'm not sure. Ugh, I'm discovering carrots I didn't even know were here. It's like I'm looking at these carrot heads. It's like, oh my God, that is work in my eyes. Does anybody here use any equipment or anything for your eyesight to make art? Because Andrew Raftery, my former RISD professor, he wears those like doctor's glasses to do the engraving because the line work is so fine. Or maybe it's like dentists use it. I don't know. It's one of those things that they wear. But you know who else wears those doctor's glasses? Benedict Cumberbatch at the beginning of Doctor Strange. And that scene makes me laugh because he's doing surgery and he and the assistant are not wearing masks. I'm like, what surgery scene is this? But I was like, yeah, that's okay because now I can see his face. Because if he was wearing a mask in the surgery scene, I wouldn't get to see his face. Okay, we got to get back to these beets. I think the beets are needing a lot more attention. I'm also trying to do different colors for the sketching. So in the beginning, I was doing some brown. Actually, let me do some like dark red for some of this. So in the sketching, we have multiple colors. It's not just the same line. And I think that is a very helpful thing to do just for variety, because the more variety in line, the better. People oftentimes ask me about, well, how do I get things to look well? Okay, let me ask you guys this question. A lot of people will use this word for me when they're frustrated with their paintings, and somebody mentioned it in the creature design workshop today, and they said, well, I really don't like this piece painting because it looks cartoony. Have you guys ever thought about your work that way? And what does that really mean? Because obviously some cartoons are awesome and I wouldn't want Calvin and Hobbes to not look like a cartoon. That's an amazing comic. On the other hand, I sort of know what you're talking about. However, whenever people show me their work, it doesn't really look like a cartoon as much as I think it's that it looks flat. Do you guys think that's what it is? Do you think when people say cartoony, what they mean is my painting looks flat? Or do you think it's something else? Because I've heard that term enough now that I think I might make a video on how to do that, because people will mention that to me and sometimes I need more articulation for like, okay, well, why? What do you think makes it cartoony? Why is it a bad thing? What are you trying to fix? So help me figure out this video idea. How do I frame that? Tell me if you have looked at your work and said, oh, that looks cartoony. And it doesn't have to be in the context of painting, just anything. Like I've talked to people, somebody who did the figure drawing workshop a little ways back said that they thought their figure drawings looked really cartoony. And what we figured out in the end was that their line work was too consistent. They were using the exact same darkness of line. It was the same width of line. And so because the lines were so consistent and not varied at all, that's what made it look cartoony. And so every single circumstance is different. People have different ways of expressing that. But that is my guess for what people mean in terms of the work looking cartoony. I guess because sometimes, I mean, I don't think people think about cartoons as like a field the same way they think about, say, painting, which I don't think is cool. I think cartooning is absolutely a field. But I think because comics are so well known, we don't oftentimes think about them as a field. Although I could be wrong. You guys can correct me. But at least that's what I've seen. Like, if you think about, like, okay, industrial design is a very well established field. But I feel like cartooning is just like people just don't know a lot about how cartoons get made, what needs to happen for somebody to gain the skills to be a cartoonist. I think it's just a very misunderstood field in a lot of circumstances. But this is a good question, which is what I was going to get at from Randy. Do some people use it in a negative way? Well, so the other word that comes up a lot is people will say, and I really hate this, is in art school, there were a lot of teachers who were up on their high horse. And if you were an illustration student and you did something that would be considered more illustration, they would call it illustrative and use illustrative as a pejorative. And that made me mad because I'm like, what? You're going to use an entire field as being a bad thing? And us describing something as being that field makes it bad? Like, that really made me mad. And there are a lot of illustration majors who would come to me and tell me about those experiences. And I just thought, like, get off your high horse, people. Come on. Like, would we use painting as a pejorative? No. Like, if we say, oh, it's painterly, we're not saying that as a pejorative. But I have heard people say that for illustration many times. That frustrates me. Okay, let me take a progress photo and then we're going to dig into some more shapes. I'll get some details in the Discord. And let me shoot a one where I can really zoom. Hope you guys are liking those details. They help me. I feel like I can understand the painting better because oftentimes online you don't get to see details of paintings. Or people will post a detail and it's like really similar, like you don't learn anything new. To me, that's when a detail is very helpful, is when I really feel like I am learning something new. And I'll also get in some of the mixtures. I used quite a bit of this red and like a purplish red and quite a bit of blue. I'll get those three colors into the Discord. Whoops. Discord crashed a little. I got to get that restarted. Hang on. Okay. So if you look at this, there's some red lines, there's some blue lines, there's some purple lines. But I do think that makes a difference, that not all the lines are the same color. Okay, into the Discord, you are going to see my three mixtures for those three different lines. And then we're also going to see a full view of the piece. And I will also drop in a whole bunch of details. Okay. Let's start blocking in some of the carrots, but I want to take a minute and just look. I think I need some of the carrot top head. I think I just need some of those bright greens, I think, have to be placed in a fairly simple manner. I might just try that straight. This one, permanent green light. Let's try it straight. No, I shouldn't because there's a lot of white. Okay, let's start with a lot of white, and we're going to add a little bit of that light green. Well, I'll get to these comments in a little bit, but I do see people saying it happens in other circumstances. Like Girl Jordan says that happens in fashion and costuming too. Both industries use the other as a pejorative. Oh, I never even thought about that. Well, I guess because I'm limited, of course, to my own experience of what I hear, but that's interesting. Is it specifically between costuming and fashion? Or, I mean, I'm sure there's all these different layers to that. Because I don't know anything about the fashion industry at all. Not my thing. I think it's fascinating. I mean, it's incredible what people are able to do. But not my area of expertise. Which is why I am not a one-person YouTube channel. I can't take that responsibility. It is way more work having several people on the channel, but I do think it makes a difference. I mean, this may sound selfish, but I think sometimes it's like if I can take the attention off myself here or there, it's just a little bit easier psychologically. I mean, I do most of the heavy lifting here, but I don't know. It's just like a feeling of knowing that there are people there helping you. A lot of these people, it's like they run these one-person channels that are very large, and I don't know how they do it. By the way, did people hear about that thing with Ross Tran and AI? Do people know what I'm talking about? Jordan told me about him. He's got a really large channel, has been very successful, but I guess he got like called out for doing some AI stuff. I don't know if people are following that at all, but oh man, I'm really regretting this is not on a watercolor block. I confess I was lazy. I did not go to the store because I just had like a pad with 2 sheets of cold press left. And now I'm paying for it because it's wrinkling up here at the top. I mean, hearing about stuff like that, it's stressful because I'll tell you, one of the things that scares me about being online is, oh, this is more purple. Oh, I should add some purple. One of the things that worries me is getting canceled. Like, that's really scary. Getting nailed for something you said. And actually, this is where I think my experience in the classroom has really helped me, because in the classroom, yes, you have to be careful what you say. You can't just say anything. You'll get in trouble. So I do feel lucky that some of that experience has helped me for sure. Okay, let me add, let's do more of that green. And I'm just going to add like little patches of it. It's not going to be that bright. Like, this is actually sort of low in contrast, but I think I want that because I don't want this to be so clear cut just yet. I just want minor indications. And so it's okay if the contrast is kind of low. So it's just a couple marks to indicate the presence. Yeah, I don't know the specifics of the raw straws thing. I think some reel like showed up, and I think, correct me because I don't think I have the correct facts. So I could be totally wrong that he like used AI stuff and people were mad at him that he did that. But then I guess some of the conversations in the comments, people were saying, well, it's understandable because if you're a creator online and you have to keep up with the social media hamster wheel, why wouldn't you do that? And that argument for me, I mean, I'm talking about myself, okay? I'm not talking about other creators. But for me, I don't care how long something takes. I don't think I would ever use it in that way, claim it as like I wouldn't use it and not tell people I was using it. If I used it, I would say, by the way, this image is blah, blah, blah with AI. I think I'd be okay doing that. I don't really have a lot of interest with using AI to do anything. Maybe I'll change my mind in a little bit. Maybe it'll become necessary for me. But right now, we're homegrown here, you guys. We're like the carrots. Okay, I do want to get some of the beet colors in there. So that's going to mean a really deep, deep red. Because that is one color, I just am like missing that color entirely. You know, I'm going to try straight carmine. I just want to see what it does. That's very red. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of ultramarine. I guess that's okay. I'm going to just do a wash. We're not going to paint the whole thing in. But I definitely need, like, this color is missing. It's got to be present. Otherwise, I don't know how to compare it against other things. It's also going to help get some of the value going down here. And that will also help with, yeah, like this is all purple. Yeah, because this one carrot really sticks out a lot. So we're just going to toss in a big chunk of that color. Let's just fill the whole thing. I'll go back in and fix it. But this whole area is very dark. This top spot too. There's just an intersection of, there's so many things up here. And here, this is probably one of the darkest spots of the entire painting, right here. I'm going to land that dark value, nice and dramatic. And then let it flow into some of the greens and the red. Okay, now let's do another pass. We're going to add a little bit of black around the beets, so that way we can start to differentiate them. There's a really big one on this side. I just want to show, okay, like there's the top of this one. Just to start to insinuate some of those shapes better. All right, let me shoot some progress images and then we'll take a look at what you guys are talking about. You know something? I don't think I'm remotely close to knowing what I'm doing with gouache, but I definitely feel like I understand it better today. I feel like I'm organizing things better than I was, oh God, the first day. You know what I should have done? I should have done the peacock the last day. That would have been much smarter. That was definitely the toughest out of the three. All right, let's go to people in the Discord. And remember, everybody, you can also ask me questions here too. Okay, we have something from Jordy, looks like. Oh, is this a blending stump? Yeah, it looks like it. And then also we have some very dainty pointillism. Oh, and I like how you switched up your stroke because down here it's a little bit rounder and up here it's a lot messier. So you have many different ways to articulate that form. Nice job, Jordy. Wow, we got a whole conversation here going about watercolor. I love it. Okay, so Butter says, on the cheap pastel surfaces, this automotive 1000 grit is my favorite. Oh, wait, are you drawing on the sandpaper? Or are you making a drawing and sanding it? What? Not sure it could hold 2 more layers, maybe alcohol wash, hard pastel, buttery pastels. Oh, I need to know, Butter. Are you drawing on sandpaper? Because there was a professor at RISD, Thomas Mills, who always made the students draw in charcoal, and he'd have them sand drawings, and it made beautiful atmospheric effects. Oh, cool, Tara, you finished it. Oh, I love how full the background became. Oh, and a little variant of blue in here. Nice job keeping that wide of the canvas. That is not easy to do, and it happens in these other spots. That's always something I wanna do, but I never plan for it. Oh my gosh, it is! It's pastels on sandpaper? W How thick is that, like, wet sandpaper? Oh my gosh, I know you posted it earlier. That is so cool, Butter. How did you think to do that? I would always think that the sandpaper is too rough, but you can get sandpaper which is not that rough, actually. Oh my gosh, my brain is exploding right now. The thought, Butter, of you drawing on an actual sheet of sandpaper is really amazing. Well, welcome, Jennifer. So glad to have all of you here. Yeah, Neil, I appreciate the whole quote handmade aspect of art. It's real and enduring. For me, I would call it human because it has flaws. We're humans. We make mistakes, but we do make amazing work too. Where you look at something, you're like, how did people make that? It's really incredible. Okay, so Girl Jordan says, I've heard it more from fashion people saying something over the top is costumey. When I looked into costume design, they'd call things too fashiony or something when they didn't like it. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Well, we've got some controversial comments here. Hey, bring it on. As long as you guys are respectful and not rude, it's okay for us to have different opinions. Randy says, I think the biggest victims of AI image generation are the generators themselves. Being an artist is enriching, but they deny themselves that enrichment. I mean, I think for me, it's hard to put them in the same room in a way because in my mind, they just seem so opposite. I mean, we could say, okay, at the base level, it's a creative impulse to want to make something. But if you are actually making it yourself, hands-on versus doing the AI, that to me just feels like a totally different form of creativity. Yes, Neil, that is permanent green with white. Okay, well, Jen here says, because we were talking about, quote, illustrative as a pejorative, I can see it's a negative if it wasn't your goal. So here's some comments about the cartoony thing. I think it can be any of the major things being too uniform can give you that flat feel. Oh, was it you, Tara? Oh, right. Thank you for identifying yourself. Thank you so much. I try to remember, but my brain is pretty full these days. But it's cool, and I wonder, Tara, if you'd be willing to share this, is that you do a lot of cartoons. And the conversation you and I had during the workshop was about how some of your knowledge as a cartoonist was actually what made your figure drawings look less cartoony. Like I just thought that was amazing. It just shows that skills are in every field. They just come in different forms. Lisa says, I totally get lost in complex subjects when tired. My angles start to flip and reverse in my head. Dyslexia. Oh, I'm sure that must be a big challenge to do. Oh, pickled beets. I bet they're pretty. I don't like pickled things. It's just I don't know. Like the pickled ginger they have on the side of the sushi? I have family members who love that. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It's me and pickling. It's just not my thing." Who here has used clear gesso? I was thinking about it for that panel, but I didn't want to spend the money because it costs money to get that. And I'm so glad, Alexander, that your kids are asleep. Yes. Okay, parents, that moment your kid is like asleep, and I don't mean cooing, and I don't mean rumbling around. I'm like asleep. That is the greatest feeling as a parent. You feel amazing. Oh, so Butter has been using clear gesso, which is grittier than the 1000 grit. This one feels perfect, especially if I can get it to hold 3 layers. Oh. Have you done this before, Butter? It sounds like you thought about a lot of things. Cookie Monster is asking, what beginner needs gesso? If you want to follow up and let me know. Oh, here you have followed up. Okay. Just use pre-gessoed canvas. A lot of it has to do with people really wanting to customize the surface. So, for example, if you gesso your own canvas, you have the option to sand it. You can do multiple layers. You can make it very thin. You can make it much thicker. Like, let's say you want to put on gesso and you want it to have, maybe you want to show the brushwork in the gesso. Some people like gesso, which is multiple layers. Other people just want one layer that's very thin. That's usually one of the reasons. There's also things like people are talking about clear gesso is great. Like if you wanted to paint on wood and you wanted the wood texture to show through, if you painted on top of it with clear gesso, that would retain that. Mahima's asking, any substitute to Clairefontaine pastel matte sanded paper? Which hardware sanded paper? Oh, I don't know about that stuff. Is that a paper for pastel? Okay, well, ask each other because I don't have the answers on all those things. Renee says clear gesso is great. Yes, the grit. Also good for pastel. I like it on a Belgian linen canvas to allow the canvas color to show up. I think pre-stretched canvases, they're super handy because stretching your canvases, it's a pain in the butt. It takes time. You can't just whip out a canvas and just start painting. In a lot of cases, that's all you need. But especially if, let's say you're somebody who paints full time or you really want to customize, like some people don't like linen. Some people do like cotton. It's just really customizing it, especially to what it is that you want. Okay. Let's take a look at what's happening. I am going to go all in on shape. That is the next conquest. Yeah, so people are talking about Belgian linen, and there's so many different kinds of canvas. How many of you here who paint and use canvas or whatever, what is your favorite type? Because there's like rough canvas, There's linen, but then there's different types of rough canvas. It's so many options. I mean, I didn't even know about most of these things until you guys came in and told me about it. Okay, we're going to come in and start adding some of these brighter sections. And that means a lot of white. Okay, does anybody know, is that a parsnip or is that another carrot? I swear it looks more like a parsnip. Do you know what I mean? It's like not as thin as the carrot and it looks a little more bulbous at the top. My theory is that's a parsnip. This one. Or is that actually just another carrot? Okay, well, I'm painting what I think is a parsnip next. I kind of think that's what it is. It's a very pale color, not quite Naples yellow, but actually I was thinking it would be perfect for raw sienna, but of course I don't have any raw sienna on me right now. Oh, that's way too dark. Let's get in some more white. Oh, that's good. Okay, good. We're just going to paint it over. Because there's just so many options for painting, and it's like you can't try them all. And so I have found it incredibly important to ask people because I think, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm right, it's so much better to get all of that material information when you can interact. Certainly, it is nice to look up articles and read things, but it's like being here and people mentioning pastel mat, which I never knew about, people here talking about clear gesso. It's like, yeah, I can just ask Butter, hey, what do you mean by, oh my God, did you draw on sandpaper? Like, that's amazing to me. Also, it's more fun. Like, I read articles or I watch tutorials and I always have questions. Do you guys have that? Where you watch a video and it's like, yes, you understand more things, but then you have more questions because inevitably they bring up something that you don't know. And then you're like, but what? And then, of course, the tutorial's over and you can't ask them something. I mean, I guess you can. Some creators do respond, but a lot of them can't. I get it. I totally understand why they can't. Okay, we need to get some more of these maroon ones in here. So we're going to mix up a lot of red. Because some of these are like maroonish purple. It should probably be more saturated. I am finding it's so hard to tell what color it actually is because the gouache dries a different color. And I do find that a little challenging to deal with. Because here's the thing, I tried watercolor canvas, like I told you guys yesterday, and it's really not that great. Like, it's fine, but I don't know. Have we decided? Is it a parsnip? This one here. Is that a parsnip or is it a very bright carrot? Because I think based on the form, it's a parsnip. Parsnips are okay. I feel like I only like parsnips when they're with carrots. Like they taste better together. Oh, there's a really big one here I need to take care of. This is the really plump one. That looks like it has a swollen tail. So actually, I'd be curious when you guys have found somebody like their tutorial or blah blah blah. Have you gone in and asked them questions and have you gotten your question answered? Because I mean, I feel bad about this. We just can't do it anymore on every single comment, because a long time ago, I would tell the TAs, like Deepti and Lauren were doing comments on Instagram and YouTube, and I would say to them, answer every single comment, because we felt it was very important. But that's when we had a small following, and now we can't do it anymore. And I feel bad about it, because people ask us things. And so usually what I try to do is I say, well, listen, we can't help you here, but if you come into the Discord, then not only will you get help from the community, but you can also join art club or do a workshop and get direct help that way as well. So we do that a lot on the YouTube channel. We say, join the Discord, we can help you there. But it's just, in terms of numbers, we just can't do it anymore. And so now what we typically do is, when somebody asks a really particular question, if we can answer it quickly, we will. But oftentimes people leave really tough questions that are not answered quickly. Or if we can quickly say, oh yes, this video explains that. But most of the time we're like, join the Discord, we can't explain it really fast. And I know not everybody is familiar with Discord, so sometimes it's a big leap to get people in there. But I just think getting advice from a person you can interact with is a whole other experience than when you're just consuming a piece of information. Because when do you ever learn something and not have follow-up questions? No chance that's ever going to not happen. Oh, getting distracted by this beat. So pretty, though. That's the other thing, is I think a lot of the times the reason why people need help with various things is they're trying to figure out, is this worth it? Is this worth me spending money on? You want to do that research. You don't want to go out and buy 8 different kinds of watercolor. You want to see what's really worth it. So actually, a lot of the time, whenever people come into the Discord and they ask me questions, I don't know, I feel like, when you meet a doctor for the first time and they don't know anything about you, and so they ask you all these questions before they can even help you. I feel like that happens all the time in the Discord. And it's always a much longer conversation than a lot of people want to have. But oftentimes the recommendation I make it because of what I'm seeing in your work. Because we could say across the board, oh, watercolor canvas, it's okay, it's fine. But then maybe I look at somebody's work and I go, oh no, that would be perfect for you. So that's the other thing, is you can get help, certainly, just general advice. But ultimately, the best advice is the advice that is customized, the advice where you are part of that decision. And it is not just in general, watercolor canvas is this. But I guess that's learning, right? So sometimes I feel silly because I'm asking them like 10 questions before I can answer. But it's just, some things are like that, like especially college admissions. A lot of people talk to me about MFA programs. And sometimes after they tell me what they want to do, I say, well, actually, MFA is not the way to go. Actually, it's this. And so I find that a lot of what we do is dispelling bad information that people get, or wrong information, which is a lot of what's out there. Oh, I like painting these. This is really fun. Oh, it's so fun. I love this, you guys. Thank you for being here with me. Because if I wasn't here doing this, well, I'd probably be watching The Walking Dead right now. Although I'm very sad because we finished the series, and so now it's like, you know, it's really fun to rewatch things, but it's also like, oh, I'll never get to have that moment of seeing it for the first time and how satisfying that is. I really want to try gouache next time I'm doing plein air, you guys. I think that would be really fun. I really can see this working for plein air. Big time. Okay, the thing about these is they're a little bit purpley, sort of like a reddish purple. Oh, that's too orange. I want something more magenta. You know what? I'm going to try the purple. I have not used the purple very much. This is violet. Maybe this is going to fix my problems because all the reds I'm mixing right now, they're getting too orange. Oh my gosh, that's it. Oh, that's the perfect purple. Oh my gosh, I really like that. That's totally the purple. Nice. You know, one color just like fixes everything. It's just great. That looks pretty nice and rich. Oh my gosh, I'm a fan of this purple, you guys. Still struggling in terms of the amount of water to put into the gouache. I think that's a practice thing. I think you just have to like get used to it. At least that's what I think. Okay, let's mix some that are a little bit lighter. And you know something? I am having a lot of fun keeping very low contrast. I think gouache is making that easier for me to do. I'm really surprised by that. Okay, we've got some more yellow to do in the middle. There's this one in here that's pretty bright. I feel like I'm working harder on getting a range of colors. See, this is all fairly similar in terms of value, but I'm doing way more colors than I normally would do. So I think this is a great exercise for me. I think it's getting me to not be reliant on value so much. I mean, I'm putting some of it in there, but I don't think it really gets that dark, right? It's like that deep, deep dark. I don't think it's really present in gouache. I mean, not that you can't do it, but that it's not something that gouache does naturally is maybe more what I'm talking about. Although right now I do feel like I'm drawing more. I don't really feel like I'm painting as much, but I think maybe that's because the subject matter is just much more complex. I gotta tape this. It's coming off. This is what I get for not spending money on a hot press watercolor block. Oh well. I want to do a couple bigger spots, especially up here. So we're switching to the bigger brush now. Here I'm more painting around things. I'm trying to fill in all these spots down here at the bottom, so I think I'm going to use more of that like violet, and I'm going to make it more saturated than I think it should be, but I think it's actually going to work. So this is a very dark blue that I'm putting down here. So it's the same thing, like even these are all similar in value, but because they're all different darks, they tend to be more interesting and less flat. Okay, I'm neglecting the upper left-hand corner, so I need to get back in there, maybe some greenish blue, and just to indicate some bigger patches. I'm not gonna draw the individual things right now, but I definitely wanna show, like, the strokes, the directions that they go in. Yeah, I'm definitely drawing more today. Yesterday, it was so easy to paint because of the subject matter, just let me paint that way. Okay, let's just get this one violet one a little bit bigger. And we'll do a progress photo and see what people are up to. Okay, got some close-ups. I'm liking this. You guys, I definitely am going to do more gouache. Absolutely. I can see this being so useful later on. And remember, everybody, if you have questions, drop them into the chat. Write question in caps. That will make sure that I don't miss what you're talking about. Jennifer is asking, how do you feel about hot pressed versus the two other surfaces with gouache? The hot press feels default surface. Like there's nothing particularly special about it. The panel is super sensitive. Like the panel, it picks up everything. In terms of brushwork, the panel exposes every little thing. The cold press hides all those things because it's so textured that a lot of those like really minor little things that you would see in a panel don't show up in the cold press. So I would say the most forgiving service where you can really hide some of your brush stuff would be cold press. Hot press feels more just like standard. And then the primed panel is more for a lot of detail. If you want to do something where you're doing like very fine strokes, I think that would be good. It's similar to egg tempera. Lisa says, I found the matte property of gouache to be unsettling. It's taking time and exposure to feel comfortable with it. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to see what its range is. And I think what it would be great for me is to not rely on the value, which I really need to do. Suna says, when it comes to buying supplies, I can't always trust the website. They're incentivized not is so true. For example, they don't talk on the Copic marker marketing. They don't mention that they're not light fast. And I know a lot of people are just horrified when they find out. It's just not advertised. And so that's where you have to go to talk to somebody to find this out. Paula says, do you need gesso watercolor canvas for it to work with the watercolor? I don't think so. I think the idea is that you can just paint right on top of it, although I could be wrong. It's a yellow carrot. That's what, although Butter, because I know you work with gardening, I think I'm more inclined to believe you. Oh, so Paula tried watercolor canvas and hated it. Looks so washed out no matter what I did, but maybe I didn't know how to work with the watercolor canvas. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think the other thing, whenever people ask me for help, sometimes they ask me for help on one thing, and then I look at it and I realize it's something else. They'll say, "Well, I'm having trouble with my charcoal drawing." And I'll look at it and say, "Well, your problem is you're using newsprint for a long-term charcoal drawing. You shouldn't do that." And they fix it, and then it's like, boom, they don't have those problems anymore. So that's the other thing, is sometimes the thing that you think is a problem really is not a problem. It's something else. Courtney says, "Would using a gouache swatch test sheet help identify the dried color easier?" Probably. But you know something? I'm not a swatcher. I'll do it on a live stream to demonstrate the paint, but I'm not one of those people that keeps intricate swatches. I think it's smart, and maybe I should. It might be a little bit more productive, but it's not really the thing that I am naturally inclined to do. Oh, I really like this. Suna says, "It's a really human thing to trust a person telling us something directly more than we can trust some anonymous written source." Absolutely. God, right now, like, I'm looking at the chat, you guys, there's just a gold mine of information here about supplies that most of it I don't know, but you guys are talking about all these things I really don't know a lot about. And that's one of the reasons why I do have a staff, is because I knew that my knowledge was extremely limited and that I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things. So that's why we have other artists on staff. Yes, I don't care that the Eagles won. For anybody who's wondering. Adrian is asking, "Have you ever mixed up the paint water cup?" Maybe. I've never done the sip, but I have definitely, like, put my brush above and just quickly, like, recoiled. I have never actually sipped the water. Who here has sipped the water? Because I imagine many of you have sipped the water. Or I've, like, stuck it in my coffee, and that's, like, the end of my coffee. That's very sad. Lisa says, "I recall you wiped away using the panel." In case people missed it, this is the panel painting I did of a peacock. This is also with Holbein. And I did some wipe away. And if you missed it, this is I don't know, it kind of looks like a fairy landscape now that I think about it. Not the type of landscape I would paint. I did do a little bit. I didn't do any of that today, though. I think part of it is because it's paper. And so I'm a little worried about rubbing into it. Although I do that with watercolor too. So I don't know why I'm hesitating. Maybe it's just the nature of the image. It doesn't feel like a wipe away piece. Well, so one thing that I think is really interesting, this painting of the peacock, never would I make a piece like this in my own practice. It's so not in my wheelhouse. Same thing with this landscape. I feel like this looks like one of those pretty Totoro magical fairyland images that I would never paint. But it got me trying out different techniques. I'm trying gouache. Even if I never pick up gouache again, I think I will. I still got to do a lot of things, and I think it's extremely helpful to do things that are just totally off track of what you typically do. Yeah, see, I'm not a fairy person, you guys. That is not my thing. But Christine, I know you've done beautiful landscapes like that, with like that cottage one you did with the shimmering light. That was so beautiful. They're both not done. I'd still have to spend time on them, and you guys can let me know if you want to see them finished on stream, because I don't have enough pieces to finish. Still have those oil paintings back there that need a lot of attention. But if this is how long it takes, maybe people need to see that. All right. And by the way, we are still painting for a little while, everybody. But remember, we are doing registration for our March and April workshops. And we have gesture drawing, marker workshop, underwater scenes, sparkly painting with Mia, painting luminous colors, chibi workshop with Jordan, and a gouache workshop. And Jordan is also doing digital color. Our workshops are 2 weeks. Somebody mentioned this. They said they thought that the workshops were like having an art teacher in your back pocket. I think it was Coffee who said that. But I thought that was such a great way to think about things, because the 2 weeks is so nice to have, because the live session is 3 hours. It is a lot to absorb because you're working, you're listening. And by the way, we do record the workshop, so it's not like you have to really remember everything all at once, but it's a lot to absorb. And so oftentimes people have follow-up questions. They want to keep working on a piece that they recently started that's new. Or sometimes people want to start a new piece based on what they learned. It's a really nice to have that time, because sometimes if the workshop is just once, it's just live session and that's it, you don't really get a sense of the instructor very much because you don't get time with them. And so we give people a lot of time to really see what we are doing. And I think another big thing that we introduced is the audio recording critiques, which we didn't have before. And I just think it's nicer to hear a voice for a critique, because critiques can be hard to hear. How many of you guys here who have had the critique experience agree that it is hard to hear a critique sometimes? Because Lauren and I, we were saying that the knee-jerk reaction for most artists when you get a critique is, well, I already did that. And I totally do that. Like, people will give me advice about certain things. I'm like, I did that. And she's like, yeah, I do that too. She's like, that's my first reaction. It's what a lot of people go through. Yeah, I would say the hot press paper, it's fine, but I don't think it's that fun. I find the others more interesting. But again, this is the type of material I'm like, oh boy, I'd have to like go on a 2-week getaway with Gouache for us to truly understand each other. It's not like these other materials. It's like, yeah, I can just have a weekend with you and it's fine. Okay, I'm getting back into my comfort zone. I'm adding some more of these dark colors, but I think I'm almost ready to start doing another pass of some other things. I just want to get a little bit more orange in here. And down here, this is getting a little sloppy. I'm going to fill this in more. If anything, just to switch up the color a little bit more. I mean, I'm not really looking at the reference that much. I'm just trying to get rid of some of these outlines that are really obvious. Those are like left over from before. Because you do hit a point where it's like the underpainting really becomes like an actual problem, which is not good. Oh, I totally like lost this carrot. This one's supposed to be really prominent and I lost it entirely. Again, it's the lack of white. Like, the white is kind of messing with me right now. Suna's asking, is the sparkly workshop about actual sparkles and glitter or making things look sparkly, both. Mia's going to have a lot of ideas for you guys. She has definitely gone through and thought through a lot of these options. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun with that, because there are things you can do, obviously, to add and create sparkly effects that are different than literally adding glitter to what you're doing. I mean, they're both valid in terms of what you want to do. Okay, we're going to get some like pale lavender in here because I want these beets to start to come out. And that means a lot of white with a little touch of this violet color that I have. And actually, it should have a little more red, because there actually is quite a bit of red in these beets, even though it leans purple. Oh, that's way too dark. I need way more white. Maybe it should be wider than I think. I'm going to keep that pretty harsh looking because I'm like not even close to the other stuff. I don't like this brush though. This brush is kind of annoying. I might blend it a little. Oh, and I should add some like red highlights. Oh yeah. Oh, that's it. You guys look. If I add some red, like really minor red down here, it sort of beefs up the purple quite a bit. Because it has both. It's not just red, it's not just purple. And I'll use a little bit of a wet brush to hydrate that stuff. Because I feel like the beets are like not being acknowledged. They need to be seen. I think I see a question from Anna. Have you seen Landscape Artist of the Year? Like that show better than Portrait Artist of the Year? I haven't. And my excuse is I'm too busy to watch stuff. Oh gosh. And if I am going to watch stuff, at least right now, it's got to involve Rick Grimes. I know that's a terrible answer. That shouldn't be the reason why, but it is. Like if I'm on the couch, it's got to be Rick Grimes or Aaron. It's got to be one of them. Or it has to be like a truly gripping movie, which unfortunately, I don't really feel like I've seen a truly gripping movie for a long time. Then again, I haven't tried very hard. That's the thing. It's like there's just too many options now. I don't know. Maybe there was something about there being 3 TV channels. And I don't know. Is that just nostalgia? Like, am I just thinking that's better just because that's how I grew up? Or do people think it actually would help if we didn't have 18,000 streaming services and channels? Because I find it overwhelming. And the funny thing is, despite there being so many things to watch now, I still can't find stuff to watch. Like, I'll just sit and scroll for so long and not be able to find something, where it's like a problem in my family. Like, we can't find something to watch that people will watch together. I mean, wouldn't you think that it is better to have more things to watch? And yet somehow it doesn't feel that way to me. But again, I think it's nostalgia. I think I yearn for a simpler time. Maybe Gen X and above, you guys can let me know if it's nostalgia or if it truly is better. Of course, we're all very biased. Okay, this I'm going to blend a little. Okay, that bead is coming. And I'm going to indicate a little bit of the tail, even though it's not really ready to go yet. A little bit of blending. Keep things more general. Okay, that parsnip is taking up way too much attention. So I just want to tone it down a little. We'll add a bit of a shadow over here. It has these like bulbous lines. Okay, and I think I do want to like majorly pump up the saturation in there. Although that one needs a little shadow. Let me just block in a little bit of that because I think I just need a little more dimension. And here I'm going to do strokes that go upwards so they match the shape of the carrot. Because my opinion is there's always been crappy movies. Like, that is not new. We're always going to have bad movies. But it just seems like there's more of them than there were. Like, am I just totally misremembering things? Because I was watching... Do people remember that film, LA Confidential? It came out maybe in the 2000s. And it has Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe. And it's a kind of complicated plot, but it's really nicely shot. It's got great dialogue. And I'm watching this movie and I'm like, when's the last time I really saw a movie that had all of those things? Not just good script, good story, good cinematography, but it's like it had all those things. And I was like, I feel like that's a bygone era. I'm not saying everything has to look good. There's plenty of movies where the cinematography is not that great, but you don't care because maybe the script is so good. But that does bum me out a little bit. That I felt like that wasn't an experience that I have very often now. For example, did anybody see that film Maria? It's got Angelina Jolie in it, and she plays Maria Callas. And if there's anyone who's going to like that movie, it's me, okay? Because, well, I'm not like a mega opera fan, but I appreciate it, and I know about it. I know the pieces and stuff like that. So I am definitely somebody who would watch that movie. I didn't think it was that well shot. People were like, "Oh my god, the cinematography." I'm like, "No, it's not." So I'm like, "Are people watching a different film? Like, am I just like not understanding something? Or maybe the people that think it's not good are not saying anything? I don't know. Like, I just truly didn't get it. Okay, we're going to add some wider spots for some of the tips of the carrots because some of them go from light to dark. So we're going to add some of these ends and then blend them in. That's fun. This is the fun part, the heavy lifting. Well, it's not done, but it's not as bad as it was in the beginning. So what I'm thinking is I just make a pass throughout everything. Fill in where some of these would be. And I do want to do, well, maybe I'll just blend for a little bit because stuff like this, I don't like this. That needs to go. Like, that's so easy with gouache. It's crazy. That is why I would use gouache. Because blending with acrylics is not that easy, in my opinion. I think it's pretty hard, actually. Ew, I used something really muddy there. That was a bad idea. Okay, and let's get some brighter, like pinky stuff. Some of these got very dark. This one needs a brighter highlight. So now I'm just going in and I'm popping in some highlights, some shadows, since I had that base color down. And I'm trying to do the strokes so they imitate the roundness of the carrots. So like even up here, doing strokes that are slightly rounded will immediately start to show some of that direction. Like here, I could add some things and I'm doing strokes that go across. Because I think the thing about painting is you don't want to paint things so that you're just coloring in. Like coloring in is different than really painting. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. Oh, that's not good. You know, I think I'm missing a couple carrots. I really, I really should count the carrots before I move on. Yeah, there's like a whole one here that I didn't get. All right. Let's take a look. So am I just an old nostalgic fart? Or do I really have something true to say about the state of cinema today? Oh, I like my beat, you guys. The beat is kind of cute. Okay, these are going into the Discord, and I will check out the Discord as well. Seems like people are nice and busy. Doesn't it feel good to feel productive, everybody? Okay, let's see in the Discord. So Lisa says, I learned gouache clogs up microns. Markers last a bit longer. Colored pencil looks good over gouache. Wiping up with a wet rag or baby wipe work. I could see why colored pencils would be good because they have that same matte look to them. I'm one of those people, I don't really like pen that much. And so if I add something on top of the painting, it's probably going to be something with color. I mean, you could use a colored pen, but I just like colored pencil better. But you got some beautiful transparent qualities back here. I mean, you can see rings going over rings. And here, how did you do this, Lisa? The spot at the bottom is so perfect. Did you like press a cup against that? Or are these like drawn circles at the top? Okay, I just love how atmospheric some of them are, but some of them are like very clear cut. Scylla says, started this tonight, warming up and having a snack right now. Let's take a look. Oh, nice job on that beard. Look at how lively that brushwork is. And you've got some serious nasal bone structure happening. Nice eye sockets and also the tilt of the brow. Oh, I hope you keep working on it. You've got a really excellent start. It already feels so volumetric. So Jen says, painting I did for my friend, painting featured in Goodfellas of my friend's boyfriend as the guy and their dogs. Oh my gosh. Wait, did they know about it? Has anybody here seen Goodfellas? It's a good film. Ray Liotta was in it. Oh my gosh. That is so cool. I love the face. Look at all the different colors in the beard, like the blues and the peaches and the browns. So much variation. And what a quirky idea for a painting. I totally don't remember what happens in that scene, but I sort of remember it briefly. Well, I'm glad you shared that with us, Jen. Rowan says, been so long since I used gouache, feeling very rusty. I'm just going to start here. Oh, I love the brushwork, Rowan. This, look at that. Beautiful moment of dry brushing. And then here, everything looks so, I don't know why the word milky comes to my head. Let's look at the whole piece. Oh, it's such a lively composition, Rowan. I hope you keep working on it later. I mean, sometimes you just have to step away, but you've got so many things going on. And I mean, moving around the page so much. And we also have happy. Getting there for me, I started with not a great idea. Then it evolved as I went along. Wow, you did a lot. Oh my gosh, look at the jacket. Oh, definitely keep going. There are a lot of pieces like that. In the beginning, I'm not so sure, but sometimes it just takes time to settle into the groove and see what happens. Silver Song, first layer with my cat's tongue brush. When it dries, I can go in with a small round for all the details. Oh, that's a very beautiful wash. Oh my gosh. How did you get that so soft? I should say, oh my gouache is what I should say. Salinas is back to the sea anemones. Oh, I love the movement. Sea anemones are so weird. It's like you watch them flowing in the water and they're just great for pushing your brush technique. All right, let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Selena says, a lot of my film major classmates agree, but they're saying it's lots of post-processing, using the trending color grading and shooting techniques for everything. What sells versus creativity? Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Okay, not just me then. I believe Paula has some roasted root vegetables in your future. Oh my God, Amadeus, you guys, I watched that movie over and over again as a child. Like, exactly. You must be like my generation. I am obsessed with that movie. Like, there are passages of those Mozart pieces, like the Wind Serenade. Oh, Mozart Wind Serenade. That oboe solo. I used to play oboe in many orchestras, everybody, in case you missed it. Let's see. Randy says, was there a movie you were too young to watch that you still enjoyed? Kill Bill was mine. Oh God, Kill Bill. I couldn't watch that movie. That scene where she was hitting something. Oh God, that was hard to watch. So Christine is loving those DVD sets, but I'm not going to buy a DVD unless I really love the thing. However, have you guys noticed that because of the streaming services, there are some shows, they're up for a bit and then they pull it and it's gone forever. Like, you can't get the DVD. I think that was the one thing about DVDs, is that they did release films that probably would not be on streaming services anymore because they were not popular enough, but existed as a DVD so a few people could buy it. And that's not the case anymore. Lisa says, I appreciate fewer choices for the person ordering food in front of me. Oh, you know what place has the most out of control menu? Cheesecake Factory. Somebody took me there once and it was not good. But that menu is like 15 pages long. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? This is just too much work. See, you get me, Rowan. With fewer choices back then, we were all watching the same thing at the same time, which was more of a communal experience. Then everybody talked about it the next day. Martha says, yes, it takes us forever to find something we are in the mood for together, and I end up just watching Friends or Castle. Oh, I like Nathan Fillion. Oh my God. Firefly. Why was that show canceled? Or Gilmore Girls. I have not watched that. Well, here's a good comment about critique. Cloud C says, I've noticed it takes me about a week to really digest and figure out what was a knee-jerk reaction and what was critique that doesn't pertain to my goals. So true. I've had that where my staff will tell me something one week and I'm like, no. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, actually, well, so they know I do that. So they know that there are these layers they have to get through before I give in. And they're always right. And I know they are, but somehow it's that knee-jerk reaction. We get that. Christine says, weirdly, I've been struggling more with critique lately. Normally, I love it. But I think when it has to do with things close to my heart, like my characters, I'm a little more sensitive. Oh, I think that's true. I think there are certain pieces that are just closer to us. For example, Mr. Peacock, I'm not that close to him. He's fine, and I'll work on him, but I'm not that invested. There's other pieces I'm very invested in. Totally makes sense to me. This is a good point from Neil. What I love about the Discord is the critique is voluntary. When I'm not in the mood for a critique, I just don't post. When I do post art for critique, I'm ready for whatever response is coming. And remember, everybody, we also have this show and tell channel. And this is where you can share, and it is not for critique. So if people come in here and start critiquing each other, we come in and we will say, if you want to participate in the critique process, please go into the critique channels. Here, you can give lots of praise, lots of support, but it is not for the purpose of critique. So we've worked to try to have multiple spaces in the Discord that are particular things so you don't feel pressure to give or not give critique. Lisa says, I'm much better hearing critique for others and realizing it applies to me. Oh, yes. I think that one thing that people say a lot in the workshops is that they really appreciate hearing critiques of other people's stuff. Sometimes it's easier to hear because it's like, it's not you, it's somebody else. And so it feels like you can listen to it better. It feels more subjective. I know. Why? Firefly was so good. Oh my God. The writing and it just hurts me that that is the case. Well, hello, Sarah. Welcome to the marathon. You just came back from seeing Nickel Boys. I have not heard about that. Oh, Aliens. I think Aliens was one of the first scary movies I saw because my parents wouldn't let me watch R-rated movies. And then I went to college and I saw Aliens 2. Not Aliens 2, Aliens. The second part of, although Alien is better, in my opinion. It's, I don't know, Alien is really freaking scary. Okay, we're going to do a little bit more on my carrots. See if we can get this to look more fun. I'm going to zoom in a little. Oh, and here's another question. I love it. It's like I've got my research team right in front of me. Some of you may have noticed that I'm recording this on my DSLR at the same time. That's what that red dot is in the upper left-hand corner. And I was thinking maybe it would be nice if I did some videos which were sort of like a review of the painting marathon because I have the footage. And maybe I can step back and reflect upon more of those things. Or do you guys think that's not as fun? Is it more fun when you hear the talking while painting at the same time? Because I will say that there's so many things I think about after that I don't think about when I'm doing the actual painting. But is that not fun enough? So if it's talking, explaining some of the things I'm thinking about, but I have footage of me painting, is that fun or is that not fun? Maybe it's time to really build up that orange and red. I think I'm going to do that. I want something, at least one color that is super, super bright and intense before the stream ends. Because I was talking to the TAs and they were like, oh, well, it's a lot more interesting when you talk and paint at the same time. So we're hearing the in the moment stuff. But do you guys think there is value in the review where you step back, you explain, you have the footage of you painting? Oh, wow, that's really bright. Might be too bright for the middle. Maybe I'll put it on the sides. It's nice and juicy, though. I tend to think that both could be valuable, but I don't know. I'm always like testing out different types of formats for teaching. And I feel like there has to be something interesting about the review that you don't get during the talking while you're painting. Because there's so many other elements I could add to the video, like art supplies is also much more condensed. So it would be a very dense video, not remotely as long, but it would review all the things with visuals and links and all that stuff. Because, well, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I'm like, I have the footage. I have to do something with it. It's not worth it if I don't do something with the footage. So basically, what do you want me to do with this raw footage that I now have? What would help you the most in terms of learning? Because I do know that some people feel like the live stream, if they're watching the replay, is not as fun. And I understand that for sure. But I'm trying to come up with something that is like a summary of the live stream that people can have a similar experience and get the information. But of course, since they miss the live stream, they are able to get something still. Because I'm always troubleshooting exactly what is the thing that is going to really help you guys. Oh, this yellow is so transparent. I'm, again, shocked at how much white I need to use. This is definitely not something that I feel in acrylics. Like the use of the white seems extremely important. Okay, so right now I'm building up some of the saturation. Try to get some more highlights on this carrot. I still feel like I'm drawing a lot. I feel like this is not a very good candidate for super painterly stuff. It's just there's too many things in it. In the tunnel image, it was mostly that tunnel. I mean, certainly there were things that I had to separate, but this is just like so many carrots. Yeah, so let me know, because I did post a few that were summaries of live streams, but they didn't do very well. And so now I'm thinking it has something to do with the format that wasn't working. So let me know in the comments what you think that might be. Yes, Anna, that's what I'm saying. So basically take the footage that I'm shooting right now with the DSLR. You can see that's why there's a red button in the upper left-hand corner. Take that footage and record some like reflections to point out certain things because I think a lot of people have interest in the live stream, but when they feel like they've missed it, it's not as fun to watch. And so a lot of people don't want to sit and watch a 3-hour live stream. It's too long. And so I'm thinking that I could create something that is a summary of the live stream so people can watch aspects of the live stream without feeling like they have to watch the whole thing. That's mostly what it is. Basically, ways to use this content better. Because sometimes you don't want the live stream. Some people really just want the summary. That's something we do try to accommodate. It's just different formats, different lengths. Everybody has such different needs. Some people like having a 10-minute summary of things. I don't know. Although I've been hearing this stuff where people are saying, oh, YouTube is leaning all into longer form video. Longer form video is cool now. But I wonder if that's a reaction to TikTok, because TikTok was all about the shorter the better. I think I'm going to go in and do a little bit of that light green. That might be fun. Because I think I'm losing some of the shapes back here. At the very least, I just want to like insinuate some parts. Oh, wait, I'm missing. Oh, I totally did not even do these shadows. Wait a second. Yeah, this whole spot up here. I missed these. These have to be really dark, though. Like all these branches that I totally missed adding. That will be better. It's hard when you have things that are like overlapping. I have like leaves going in front of others. So I'm trying to get a little bit of sense of things going behind each other. It's a pain in the butt. Not my favorite thing to do. But there's a couple of these that I really want to like pop. So that's why I'm painting around some of these like that. That's a little bit better. I just want to insinuate some of the structure being there. I think this is the one that really leads, this one. That's the one I want to be very prominent, and I want it to show more fluidity. And I'm toning down this background. I think I made it too dark at first. This actually should be very muddy. All right, let's get in some more green. You know, I have to say, I am a fan of the gouache reactivating. It's very handy for some sections. I could see why it might be frustrating, but I don't know. So far, I actually like it a lot. It's like I'm able to do all these things. And it's so easy to clean. Oh my God, it took me like 5 seconds to clean my palette yesterday. That was amazing. Okay. Not perfect, but at the very least, it gives me a little something. All right, let's get some of the permanent green deep, because I think my beet would really like to have its leaf present. I want to get that going. Okay, so we're going to mix up a darkish green with quite a bit of yellow. And we're going to try to give this beet its leaf back. Got kind of lost. Sorry. Mostly what it needs is that like deep, dark vein in the middle. So that's more what I'm looking for. And then I'll distribute some of this green up here so it's not isolated to that one spot. This is a painting. I think if I finished it, I'd want it to be really detailed. There's just so many beautiful details in here. Like, I typically don't really like details that much, but I think this painting could use it. How many people here like doing details? How many people don't? Because I don't know. It's always like, oh, I wish I should do more. Or people like me are like, oh, I shouldn't do so much. It's a big decision doing details. Because I think somebody said to me, maybe it was in the creature workshop today. They said, "Oh, I'm really, really bad at details, and that's really a problem in my pieces." And I was talking to them about how, or maybe it was Jordan, can't remember. Jordan was teaching the workshop. We were talking about how if you're not good at this one thing, it probably just means that you need to find another way to articulate it if it's frustrating to you, because nobody wants to work on something that is just infinitely frustrating. That's just too hard. And so, yeah, I mean, you could certainly work on getting better at your detail. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but sometimes you realize, like, I'm actually better at this other thing, and maybe I can make this other thing matter more than the other things. Because the thing is, I know I can do detail if I want to, but I oftentimes do not, because I am very into the gesture stuff. Oh, that's fun. You guys, I like that. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Yeah, parsnips, you guys are talking about those. They feel a little spicy. Do people know what I'm talking about? Like, not quite bitter, but I don't know. They're not like sweet. You know how like carrots, if you glaze them, they can be like candy? It's not like that. I'm going to add more yellow into this green mixture. I want it to stick out a little more because there's this like one leaf here at the bottom. And again, more white than I think I need. Okay, that's way too bright. I'll calm that down in a second. And we're going to blend this here. And I also need some darks. I actually think I made it too bright. Yeah, we need some darks in there. I got to calm down some of those greens. Especially here, there's this like one big shadow. Not perfect, but I do want to get that like super red spot that is the beets vein. I just need the color in there. It's a little more red than I'd like it to be, but whatever. I'm not going to paint every vein. I just want this color to be here. That's the main thing, because actually there's some more of it back here. There's some more beet. Oh, there's a whole bunch up here. Okay, nice. Can use it for that too. Oh, those beets are so fun. You guys, I really like those. I can get like a muddy purple back here just to fill in some of the other beet. I mean, this is where the beets would need like a lot of attention. I'm going to do some highlights in the upper left-hand corner. Because that, what is it, like scallions back there? They look very neglected. They need a lot more white. Little tint of the permanent green. All right, let's see if this brings some of these out. Oh, that's pretty dark. More white. Oh, that's better. Okay, so I want something that's like a lighter value, but I don't want it to be that pronounced because it's like upper left-hand corner. But they cross over in weird ways, so I have to... That's the thing. There's just so many things are on top of each other and going through and behind, and that makes things very difficult. Let's take a photo so you guys can see the whole thing in the Discord. Ugh, I'm really paying for not having a watercolor block, you guys. That was so dumb. See, it's like every time I skimp on art supplies, I'm like, why did I do that? That was super dumb. I always regret it. But somehow it ends up happening anyway. Okay, close-ups are now going into the Discord, as well as some palette shots and details. All right, let's see what people are doing in the Discord. This is in the Art Marathons channel. And this is where you guys can see better photos. You can get up close and see what was going on. Oh, so Butter did a second rose. You can still see the gray of the sandpaper. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. I so want to try that, Butter. I mean, that's basically what the pastel board that ampersand has, except it's on a board. But this seems so cool. Also, much more durable than paper, because works on paper, I just always worry about them. It sounds like my kids. Happy says, can't wait to finish it. Hopefully it comes out before I get nervous at the end. Oh, don't get nervous. The hard part is over, Happy. I'm not saying this is the easy part necessarily, but the heavy lifting is absolutely done. Oh, I'm so excited. Just watching everybody's progress. Doc J, oh my God, you did the flamingos. Yay. Because Doc J had mentioned it in the Pets and Animals workshop. Oh my God, those legs are so funny. What? This is so good, Doc J. So much personality in these flamingos. I'm so glad you did that. Oh, fantastic. Courtney's asking, was the paper a block? It's not. It's just a sheet that I tore out because I'm too lazy to go buy a block. I should have. Or I should have stretched the paper. That would have helped too, but I was too lazy and didn't do it. So sorry. Yeah, because as Alexander says, you can just put blue painter's tape and stretch it, which I did not do. Sarah says, how many gouache layers are you able to get with the carrots? How many can I do in the future, or how many did I do? I would say with the carrots, I probably did 3 layers. It needs more. It's still a little flat looking. Well, George says details are usually where I ruin things. That's me. Absolutely. And I think Neil had a question about the series chat. Okay, let me we have so many groups in the Discord, which I just love, but I know it can be a little bit confusing. Okay, so if you guys come here, this is what we're looking at. This stuff here, party news, party chat, that is Art Club. This is also Art Club, where you can post your work for critique, and I post audio recordings for people. This is Open Studios. This is also part of Art Club. Gala is a part of Art Club, but you get unlimited everything, basically. Unlimited critiques, unlimited open studios. Series is different. It's part of Art Club. However, it is run independently by Uma, who is one of our wonderful mods. So people post here, and I think the meetings are Tuesday evenings. But if you guys have questions about that, you can just tag Uma and she can let you know, Neil. But series is not run by me and the staff, but it's great. I know a lot of people really love the conversations they have in there. So these are the parts of Art Club, if you guys are wondering. And Art Club is, in my opinion, the biggest bang for your buck in terms of what we offer because of the voice sessions, the critiques from me, the open studio sessions. And if you want to get a critique, you don't have to critique other people's work. In the public critique channels, we do have that requirement, but not in Art Club, which is pretty sweet. So let's see what people are saying about types of videos. Cloud, I find both types of videos very helpful. So a review video would be fun. Suna says, I feel like especially with trying new materials, you figure out things afterwards that are really valuable and interesting. Oh, absolutely. I mean, just, okay, today I woke up and I looked at this painting and I thought to myself, okay, it's very low in contrast. And I realized that, you know how the gouache, it's not as dark when it dries? At first I was thinking, oh, that would be a problem. But you know something? I think it made that painting more cohesive because the value range is not that wide. And I was very excited to see that. Adrian says, 10-hour drawing marathon, 10-minute retrospective are both valuable to different people. Okay, really well said. Really great points. See, I feel like I learned so much about the different media that people are suggesting. I mean, I feel like it was art supply discussion hangout. A big part of that stream this was. Remember, we still have spaces in Loosen Up Your Art. That is this Saturday. You can sneak into this workshop. Got a few more days to do that. And we also have spaces in experimental printmaking, which is later this month. Remember, we have also announced our March and April workshops. Mia, Jordan, and I are all going to be teaching. You want to make sure you register by this Friday, so that way we can make sure that the workshops do run. We are offering underwater scenes, sparkly painting, gesture drawing, collage and mixed media, chibi characters, gouache, crayon, mountain landscapes, painting luminous colors, marker workshop, digital color, and oil painting. Do you guys see? My empire is expanding. I'm very excited. Thank you all so much for being along with me in my first shot at gouache. I had a great time, and I'm just so happy you're all here with me. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.